Hi everyone, thank you for joining today, and I'm looking forward to tell you a bit more about Otonomo, and especially a bit what we see in the market around connected car data, the services, and how really data is driving mobility and helping to accelerate both the auto industry, but also all the adjacent environment and ecosystem around it. So very quickly about Otonomo. Otonomo is a 4.5 years old company, a young company, very well funded, and our product is called the Automotive Data Services Platform. We work very closely with OEMs to enable them to build value around the connected car data. More and more cars are getting connected, and all those cars are sending a lot of data all the time. And we help OEMs both to build an ROI for the vast investment needed for all this connectivity, but also, and even more important, is to build value, to see how they can use the connected car data in order to launch new exciting services that will create or help to drive customer satisfaction. We've been quite successful in what we do. We have more than 22 million connected cars that are sending us data all the time, and direct contracts with 11 OEMs. Some of the OEMs, for example, that we are allowed to share in the open are BMW, Daimler, PSA, Mitsubishi. We just recently announced a partnership with FCA, and many others that we can share, unfortunately, only under NDA. So this is very quickly about us, and let's talk about what interesting, what we see in the market. First of all, more and more cars are getting connected. It's not a small percentage of the OEM fleet anymore. It's really in most cases, or big cases, in many cases, the majority of the fleet, more than 50% for many of the OEMs. I think today there isn't any OEM that is either connected or has a very clear roadmap how it's getting connected in 2020 and 2021. And there are different numbers out there in terms of what's percentage of vehicles connected. Gartner talks about 98%. I saw some other analysts talking about 75, 80% of new vehicles sold connected. I think the important thing is not the number, but the trend. Almost every new car is connected, and a year or two from now, it's not almost, it's every new car will be connected. And we really see Europe and North America in the front when you look on the global map of connectivity. We like to refer to all those connected cars as moving data centers or sensors on wheels. They send huge amounts of data and many parameters. As a rule of thumb, the newer the car, the newer the model, there's more data that comes out. And with some vehicles, we really see more than 150 parameters that are coming out. Also, the refresh rate of the data is becoming rapid more and more. If in the past, I think we saw cars sending data once a day or in the start or end of a trip, today the new vehicles are sending data all the time. All the time means every minute, every 30 seconds, every 5 seconds, sometimes every second, and also on special occasions. So higher refresh rate alongside more and more data that comes out. And it's not the engine data anymore. It's also driving style information. It's a sensor information, the ultrasonic sensors, the cameras, all the ADAS related sensors. So it's really fascinating data. And we expect to see more and more coming out from the cars, with more connected cars, with new models, and with more and more sensors embedded in the vehicles. I can tell you that when we started Otonomo, we didn't understand how much interest there is in car data. How big is the opportunity? Everybody likes to talk about insurance, UBI, usage-based insurance. I think when we started, that was the main thing people were talking about. And today, Otonomo has hundreds of companies licensing and using connected car data. And they come from many, many segments. For example, we see a lot of interest around smart cities. Smart cities are interested in car data, in things like speed, to tune the traffic lights. They are very interested in suspension information, because using suspension, you can understand the road conditions. They're very interested in information that can give them alerts on accidents, because then they can identify dangerous places. We see a lot of interest in data from tier 1s and tier 2s, either to reduce the cost of recalls, because if you can use data and find a problem in advance, it's much cheaper to do a recall for 500 cars and not 500,000 vehicles. We see tier 1s and tier 2s are also interested in car data in order to improve the quality of the parts they provide to OEMs. And we see some fascinating offerings of predictive maintenance. If you can gather information and around the tires, you check the weather outside the car, you check the driving style, you check the mileage, you can offer predictive maintenance before the tire runs out. It goes more than predictive maintenance, it goes to safety. So just one example. We see a lot of interest around concierge services. OEMs are looking all the time how they can build strong value for drivers from the data. Because the happy driver, happy customer will buy the same car again. And we really see some amazing services that fall under what we call concierge services that use car data in order to improve the driver's life. It could be fueling on demand, someone that comes to your car when you're at work to the car park, remotely open the hatch, fuse the car. Or someone that comes and washes your car. He knows to identify the location of the car from the car data. He knows to open the car remotely through control. And you get a brand new and clean car once you get out of work. We see interesting emergency services. Think about a world that when you have an accident, the emergency room gets notification in real time of how many people were in the car, what was the speed of the impact in case of an accident, did they have the seat belts, was the car hit from the left or the right. This information helps the emergency room to be more prepared. It saves life. We see also that some of those services are using car data in order to cut down the launch time of emergency vehicle. So instead of someone calling the emergency vehicle, automatically the notification comes. Every minute that you can cut down the emergency vehicle saves lives. So we really see a lot of services and a huge ecosystem that is being built gradually around car data. And it's fascinating and actually very rewarding also to see all the value that is really emerging by using smartly the car data. I really believe the proof is in the pudding. So we wanted to share with you some examples of the data, and we visualized it. And so we won't be able to share the 22 million cars data because we'll be spending more than the entire day here. But I want to show you some examples. So what you see now on the screen is example of the data that we have from London, a couple of hundreds of thousands of vehicles. And we have similar maps for Seattle and for Stuttgart and for Tokyo. The different colors that you see on the screen are different events: ignition on, ignition off, accident, fueling. And this is, for example, data that we provide to smart cities. This is data that we provide to parking services. This is data that we provide to tier 1s and tier 2s. There's a lot of interest in such data. This data, of course, is anonymized and aggregated. We built a lot of technology around how to anonymize the data. Just quickly to talk about anonymization, if you think about that, anonymization is really taking good data and making it less good. So you need to be very smart and very delicate when you anonymize data, because if you anonymize it wrongly, you kill the potential value. So this is an example of the London data, and really I hope it helps to understand the value and the scope and the power of the data. I want to show you some other examples. What you see now on the screen is electric vehicles heat map around the Bay Area. And this is data that energy companies are super interested in. This is data that charging-related companies are super interested in. This is data that states, government, and cities are interested in. You can really understand much better what are the trends of electric vehicles. You can make decisions where to deploy charging stations. You can understand what will be the influence on your power grid. But we know to do much more than just build a heat map of where EVs are driving. For example, when you charge the car, we see the battery level goes up. And then we can enable things like to build a map of where there are charging stations in the area. Because we see when you charge that the battery is being charged. More than this, we know to identify which charging stations are fast and which one are slow, which one are AC and which one are DC. We know to help to do things like scoring to charging stations. We see from the data also when you arrive to the charging station and when you started charging. So it can be used to things like load balancing between charging stations. We know to identify malfunctioning charging stations. So really there are dozens of different use cases around the electric vehicle ecosystem. And we really love this use case because we feel again that we bring value both to drivers, but also to the planet. Less pollution is good for all of us. I want to show you some very interesting examples. So we couple from the 22 million cars that we have licensed on our platform, about 10% of them are equipped with ADAS sensors, especially cameras, from different vendors like Mobileye and others. And we know to identify using this data things like hazards on the road, temporary stop signs, digital signage, and more things that I'll show you later. This is data that is very requested by mapping companies, by smart cities, and many, many entities that want to understand better what is happening around the roads and their current conditions. So what you see here on the screen is really an example of the data that we get that help us to map in real time the different traffic signs and hazards. I want to share another example. As you know, the GPS or the location from the vehicle is very accurate. It's using all the time the wheels, the steering, a lot of things to correct itself. Much more accurate than our phones. And for many use cases around mapping smart cities, around safety, around predictive transportation trends, this data with the unique capability of it's very accurate brings a lot of value. So this is example of traffic speeds from our data in New York. And again, we have similar one for London and Berlin or Seoul from the transmitted from the vehicles. I wanted to share one of the latest additions to our data. And this is really, again, going back to the ADAS information. With cameras becoming smarter and smarter and more advanced, also the information and the insights that we are getting from them are really amazing. We know today to map where there are pedestrians and how many, where there are bicycles in the city and how many, to find constructions areas. So the data is really becoming richer and richer. And for us, the richer the data, the more value we can bring, the more value for both the ecosystem, but maybe most important, the drivers. This is another example of interesting data, and this is weather-related data. This is, as you can see, a map of France taken recently. This is data that not only weather companies, and of course they are very interested in this, you can map the same street in different places, you get to accuracy like never before available around weather data. And it's not only temperature, it's also rain and barometric pressure that you can get today from vehicles. And this data, as I said, not only is requested by weather companies, but also a lot of interest from insurance companies, a lot of interest from freight and logistic services, a lot of interest from tier ones and tier twos that want to identify how different weather conditions are affecting the parts they deliver to the OEMs that are installed inside the vehicles. So very interesting data also. As you can see, with the richness of the data, with the more than 150 parameters that we get from new vehicles today, and with the high refresh rate, the use cases and what you can do is really mind-blowing. I really believe that data is the enabler for everything that is coming, everything that is new, everything that is exciting in the automotive and the mobility space. Electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, shared mobility, mobility as a service. Each one of those, if you will double click and open the hood, you will see that data is really the main enabler for those. You need data to manage the EV's ecosystem better. You need data to enable mass successfully. Everything that is coming is really becoming, data is taking a central role in the future of the automotive industry. And it's not the far future. Those are things that are already, as you can see, happening today. I tried really to talk less about otonomo and more about what is happening in the market, the trends, the connectivity, and what we see. And I want to try to summarize what I talked about and really leave you with a couple of key takeaways. The first one is that the data that is generated by vehicles was designed and built and implemented by automotive engineers. It was built and tuned for the needs of auto manufacturers, not for the needs of services, not for the needs of insurance companies or predictive maintenance companies or safety services or concierge services or banks. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the data in order to adjust it. Sometimes it needs to be cleaned. Sometimes it needs to be normalized. Sometimes it needs to be enriched. Sometimes you need to run sanity on it. A lot of massaging and a lot of love is needed to the data. You need to index it differently. You need to enable insights to the data. Nobody wants to look in a high stack to find a needle. If someone is using the data, he wants to get the needle. So that's one important takeaway that I want to share with you. Really the need to take the data and adjust it to the needs of the data consumers, of those services consuming the data, because the way it comes out from the vehicles is great, but there's a gap there. And you need to do the right things in order to make it accessible and serviceable but all those services surrounding the automotive industry. The opportunities around car data, as I try to show, are really enormous. It's for public enterprises, it's for private enterprises, it's for aggregated use cases, it's for personal use cases. It's sometimes different between passenger cars compared to commercial vehicles. The complexity is huge, but also that influences the opportunities. They are huge and diverse. So understanding of the data, understanding of the needs, understanding of the requirements, and the ability to map across them in real time is very, very important. The quality of the data influences the use cases that you can approach. Certain use cases require less than 3% mistakes in the data. Other use cases require less than 10% mistakes in the data. It's early days, and the data, when it comes out of the vehicles, in most cases, is not meeting the requirements of many of the use cases. I can share with you that we have a case of one OEM that provides us data with 30% mistakes. Part of what we do, because it's so important, is work on the quality of the data. It's not rare to see cars with ignition off and they are moving. It's not rare to see cars that the speed is at 20,000 miles an hour. It's not rare to see cars driving, or I should say, swimming in the sea. And if you think about providing this data to an insurance company for UBI, where your speed is 20,000 miles an hour, or the car jumps from North Carolina to Paris, think about your premium. So the sanity and the cleaning of the data is very, very important and influences, again, not only the potential revenues for the OEMs, but also the services that you can offer in this ecosystem around the vehicle.
Perfect.
I hope that the presentation today was interesting. I really thank you for the time. Again, we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and present. And I'm sticking around for questions. So thank you for the time today, and we will be happy to take any questions.